Yo, 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 KShedd. Yeah, 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 ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. We turn that down a little bit and then we go right into it. So, this past weekend, y'all, I had one of my best weekends in a long time. My former team, the Las Vegas Raiders, flew me down, put me up in a hotel, and gave me premier ticket, King's treatment at the game against the Packers. And I was rewarded with watching this team of ours just put together a premier effort and just put it to the Packers the way they should be doing. And hopefully they continue to do that all year. If they do, it's going to be very, very interesting. They might end up going head to head against their arch rival and longtime nemesis, the Santa Clara 49ers. And wow, what a game that would be. But the Niners, actually, I got to give them a little bit of credit. They're playing some serious football, man, on all levels. And, this game, I was able to see what could happen with the Raiders if their team leaders step on up, which they did, if their young talent, remain poised and make the big plays on third down and long, whatever, which they did. Fans were loud when they needed to be, although there were some green in the stands and stuff like that. I can guarantee you that's going to end once these Raiders keep playing ball like they know they can and start dominating. They're going to get their home field advantage back, and I'm not too worried about that. You know why? Because journalists, they got to make money their ways and stuff and twist things around. They got to make drama happen in their articles and stuff like that. So a lot of it's not meant to be taken seriously, or they're not really trying to be rude and mean to the Raider players. They're just trying to make their commissions, I guess, however it will work. But, so they'll say how much the Raiders aren't filling the stadium up with, Raider fans and stuff, and how the opposition comes to Vegas and stuff. For me, as soon as COVID hit, our team was playing all their games, all their home games, in front of a stadium full of no fans with zero people in the seats like 2-3 years ago. To me, that set the stage where they just knew right then and there they have the ball, but they have the ball for their teammates. It was an extremely tough time. If I was playing back in those days, I might have had to sit that year out because I play for the fans, but the reality, team has to move on. And just the COVID years made it very clear that you cannot have fans in your stadium. And Mr. Mark Davis said, you know what? We're not even going to half fill it or do a fraction of fans. Fans can't be in there, then no one's going to be in there. And I thought that was high respect and stuff for the city of Vegas. And you know what? It's all back on the players and it's all back on the team to fix that home field advantage. And if they play like they did, like I said, against Packers this past Monday, I don't think that's going to be a problem. So, it was a really good weekend. When I got sent back there, I was do what we do, what's called like the suite visits and stuff. Raiders take care of you. And then there were several players who I play with or I build up strong friendships with a lot of the different events that they have going on and some of the reunions that they have. So a lot of my good friends were there. Vance Mueller, Bob Rosenstiel, Chris Cooper, just all kinds of people. You had Jerry Robinson, who's like a older brother to me and who always was watching over me, making sure I'm doing good. I got a chance to see all these guys and everything. So it's a special occasion every time I come back. And so this particular game was no different. And my listeners are probably thinking, oh, this is going to be kind of like a breakdown of back in my Raiders days. And in a sense, it is. That's how I'm leading into it, but it's really not. I'm going to tell a story that happened when I was a police officer, and it was one of the more memorable days that I can remember, but not in a good way. It was a very traumatic scene that I experienced. But let me lead into how that came about. So after the game, we had a really good time, right? We're watching this incredible game. It came down to the last minute. And then my guys, I think Nate Robinson, youngster, went up there and snagged that ball in the end zone. And had he had not done that, if it had squeezed past through his arms or his hands or whatever, then the Packers receiver was standing right there with his hands out. And that would have effectively ended the game in favor of the Packers. But it didn't happen that way. This particular game, the refs decided to stop playing favorites and let our silver and black guys play and not steal the game from them. So there wasn't very many like these ghost calls that I like to call them and all that stuff. So it really came down to man versus man, 11 guys versus 11 guys, and team versus team, coaches versus coaches. And that's how it should be. And it came down to that last second. It could have gone either way. And it was a fascinating game. Everybody was jumping up and down and just so proud of their team. The Raiders balled out, and I thought that was fantastic. So the game wraps up. There's about 20 former players who all kind of were brought in. Some did what they call autograph signings. Others were there just doing other appearances. This particular time, I did the Sweet Visits, and I also did a guest spot on the Silver and Black show. And it's just always all kinds of stuff going on in that amazing stadium of that Mark Davis built. And it's just, it's a great time. So obviously the game ends. I'm exhausted because I was stressed out throughout the whole game, and it was just like an emotional roller coaster. And so I'm sitting on the bus on our way back, and so now you can kind of chill a little bit because they prevailed and all that stuff. So now you can kind of relax and stuff and kind of go on about the rest of your night. So I'm on the bus, and like I was saying about Jerry Robinson, we just strike up a conversation. I mean, him and I are always catching up on things and stuff like that. We can talk about anything all day. Every time we see each other, it's like we just saw each other. Even though a year has gone by, it's just like we just saw each other the other day. It's just that type of a friendship. So we're just both chilling on the bus. He's always asking me how I'm doing, post police officer. And then while I was a police officer, he was part of the alumni group. And then when we do Sweet Visits, when the team was in Oakland, Jerry was always there. And we'd have like end of the year type meetings and stuff so we can go over what people thought worked well and what we needed to work on. Morris Bradshaw, who was running the show back then, he was very in tuned on how to make the Sweet Visits a very memorable occasion that was fun for everybody, the alumni and then the fans and then the escorts and stuff who were taking these guys from suite to suite to to where their fans would be. So it was a well-rounded idea that was meant to connect more with the fans, and it worked out well. So Jerry and I would always, from the very beginning, we would always touch base with each other. One time, I was actually working in the city of San Leandro as I was working as a police officer, and I didn't want to miss this meeting that they had set up. So I asked for the ability to go and be part of this meeting. I was in uniform, and when I walked in, it was very strange, I think, for everybody because they had never seen me in that capacity before. Some people were just kind of like, wait a minute, who is this guy? And they had that look. I'm just, no, it's me. It's Kenny. Guys, it's me. I didn't want anybody looking at me different, and that was actually back in the days when there was some kind of questionable arrests that were going on out there, and there was some famous protests going on here and there, and so for a minute there, they were looking at me like, oh, who is this dude? But I'm one of the friendlies, man. I'm here, let's figure out how to make our Sweet Visits even better next year. It was great. So once they kind of, the shock of seeing me in my police uniform kind of went away, I sat all in and everything, and then we kind of did what we normally do and just kind of like threw out notes and threw out different feedback and stuff and everything. So Jerry Robinson always like, hey man, how's that out in the streets, man? You doing okay? You need me to jump in the car with you, man? You need some backup? And I'm looking at him because I know he's joking, but then he doesn't smile. And I'm just like, man, this dude's serious. If I need him to jump in the car with me right now because there's some ruckus going on the other side of the city, JR was jumping in the car and going with me. He was just that type of hardcore dude, and that's the type of good friend. And the reality of it was he was really concerned on my safety. Hey, he didn't want anything bad to happen to me. So every time he sees me, he's always bringing up, hey, how was it? Are you still being safe? Hopefully your pension came out well. He's just, like I said, like an older brother. So this particular time we're on the bus, right? And so he asked me, I don't know why he started that like this, but he asked me, so Kenny, how many guns you have? I think maybe he's like expecting this big old revolution, I think, to go down in this world, man. You keep looking around, there's, the Ukrainian war. Unfortunately, there's the war with Israel now. And just every time you turn around, there's shootings going on and whatever campus and whatever city and neighborhood, these mass shootings and all these different things going on, and so he's kind of like, I guess checking on me, making sure that if anything goes down, that I'm prepared. And, and I let him know, and I don't sugarcoat anything like that. I let him know that, hey, things didn't end very well between me and my police department. So 2 of my guns got taken from me. And he's like, whoa, really? And I'm just like, well, yeah. So hopefully I don't have anybody try to come into my house, but I have rights just like anybody else to protect my family, protect myself, protect my property, all that stuff. So, it's one of our rights. And yeah, I will be prepared if that day ever happened. But as we were talking, he's like, hey, has anybody ever shot at you? It's just a normal, chill conversation I'm having with one of my close friends. I'm just like, no. But I did shoot somebody. And then all of a sudden, there's that look of kind of hesitancy, like, is Kenny serious here or not? And then they ask, is he okay? And I'm just like, well, it wasn't the guy, it was a girl. And so where I'm getting at right now, guys, is that for the longest of times, I had the hardest time talking about this story. This story happened, 10 plus years ago, maybe even longer now, maybe 12, 13 years ago, a while ago, but it's something that just stays with me still to this day. I think about it every day pretty much because it was such a life-changing experience for not just me, but one of my partners got seriously injured. And that turned out to be the last day that he would ever work as a San Leandro police officer, as a patrol officer out there in the streets. That was the last day. And, when I go back over that whole thing, I relive it almost like play by play. And I always think about what I could have done differently to change what ended up happening on that call. For the longest of times, I felt guilty, and I had a hard time even looking at the police officer who was a close friend of mine. He ended up not passing away or anything like that, but he got seriously injured, like I said, and he never returned to regular duty out there in the streets. And, I felt like part of it was my fault. Like, what could I have done differently? And again, I felt so comfortable talking to Jerry about this. Maybe a lot of years have gone by and I've come to terms with everything. And I didn't go into full detail. I just told him that we had a situation where a girl ran over my partner. She tried to kill him. And so we responded with deadly force, and she didn't die, but she got injured, and eventually she got taken into custody for what she did to my partner. And so when I told him that, I was able to kind of clearly come out and say, hey, here's what happened. Kind of like a strong-minded, poised police officer would answer any question, something like that, short and sweet. Here's what happened. Here's what I had to do. And this is how the situation got resolved. But it's taken 15 plus years to get to that point, because when it actually happened, I was a mess. When it did happen that day, for 3-4 straight days, I could not get up off the couch downstairs. I didn't eat. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't move. I was depressed. I was in a very, very dark place, and it took a long time for me to be able to come to terms with that day. Mainly because everything just happened so fast. There was like no explanation why it went down the way it did. I've been a police officer for quite some time at that point, and I had thought I'd seen pretty much everything, but I don't think anything could have prepared me for how that call went down. And so basically, here's what happened. And everybody knows me. I try to keep things light. And when I knew I was going to talk about this story on my episode today, episode 28, I knew I was going to talk about this. And then for a minute, I was just like, should I come on in and say it was a cold, misty morning with all the lively sounds that would make you think something's about to go down? It was a different atmosphere than normal. And then I remember, wait a minute, I'm a police officer in San Leandro. This is completely normal. And then I went on to the call. I was going to start out like that, but then I'm just like, nah, I can't do that. I have to be serious on this and kind of like, because I'm hopeful that some younger officers or, newer officers listen to my podcast. I always promote the fact of just there's stuff in my podcast that I think could be used experience-wise to some of the police officers who are going to be taking on this incredible career, but highly dangerous career at the same time. But they can listen to some of the different stories that I'm going to put out there and actually learn from them. And this is definitely one of those. So one morning, I'm working the weekday day shift, and that used to be a shift where people went to get some sleep. It was just nothing going on in the morning. People were going to work, people were sleeping, kids were going to school, and just nothing really ever started happening until maybe like the afternoon when people started getting off work or whatever, and businesses started kind of getting filled with customers, and some customers would be unhappy for this and that, or people walking about, and then they get in arguments and stuff. So, but that's later on in the afternoon on this shift. For a long time it was like that. But then the years prior to that, it started changing. All of a sudden it was the reverse. At night or whatever, things got a little bit chill, but in the morning, in the early days of this shift, it was getting nutso. And but this particular day, I was hoping it was going to be different. So we're in lineup. We had a couple guest guys. I guess when you say guest guys, that's ones who they're either working for somebody, that someone requested a day off, and then a couple new guys would come in, take their place. We'd have like what they call like the shift layover, where they have a makeup day from another shift that they had to work, get their hours for the week. So it was just a mixture of everybody that day. And I just remember that. But it was a nice, chill lineup. Everybody kept it loose and stuff. That's how it was. One of the best parts of being a police officer is that you get your boyish fun time, I guess, with your teammates and stuff. And obviously there's girls who are part of your shift and all that stuff too. So you hang out and you kind of chill and kind of throw jokes at each other and keep things light and stuff. So like it's your sister and you're messing around with each other. It's a family atmosphere when you're in the building. And then every chance you get, you try to keep it like that, because when things go crazy out there in the streets, I can't even paint the picture for you guys. You literally would have to do a ride along and see for yourself how bizarre a world it can turn out there for you. So, but that particular moment, everybody was just chilling and having fun. So we break line up. I go and I get in my car. I get my car ready and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, all right, so it's nice and chill. I'm going to try to go get some coffee, because that's like your first thing you do. You get your coffee and you just kind of like maybe find a place to chill and stuff and just kind of wait for things to get crazy. As soon as I got in the car, a call comes out in regards to two suspicious individuals. They're in a car. The vehicle is described as a black vehicle, and it's parked in a part of a neighborhood in San Leandro it's close to the border, but this part of the area I had to be honest with you, it's just kind of older white neighborhood. And so these kids were described as two young, black juveniles, one male, one female, and they're hanging out by a car. And it's just kind of like, you get these prudish San Leandro citizens who's not used to that and stuff. They wake up in the morning, they want to get out and go get their paper, that's out in the middle of in the sidewalk, and they get their mail, not their mail, but they go get the paper, and then they just kind of want to walk out and stroll and get some fresh air with their cup of coffee and whatever. And they just want to maybe smoke a cig and stuff like that. And they're just kind of like want to enjoy the day before they have to either go to work or whatever. It's just part of life, really. So maybe that's what I kind of took it as, is that there's this car parked in front of in one of their houses, and they're not familiar to the area, and they wanted the police to come check it out. So I'm thinking there's not much else to the call other than that. So I'm thinking, okay, all right, before everybody starts kind of, getting into it, it's on my beat. So let me just head down that way, and I'll just swing on by and say, all right, kids, get on out of here, and just kind of wave them along. That's what the plan was. Honestly, there was really the hope that it was going to be something as simple as that. So as I'm getting everything ready, and I start out what we call the pit, where you park your cars, and then you kind of head up the little hill, then the little gate opens, and it's like RoboCop, man. You're here in this safe, like weird facility, with all these people who are supposed to be like robots and stuff like that. No feelings, no emotions, no anything like that, you know? I mean, but they really do have emotions and feelings and all that stuff. But then as soon as you head on in that gate, you got to turn all that off. So that's what it feels like, you know? I just remember the gate opening up and I'm just like, all right, heading out into the real world. But I want to keep it chill. As I'm kind of starting that way, one of the, or whoever called, updates it, say, oh, okay, the black male just got done urinating outside of the car. And I'm just, oh man, come on, guys. You know, me being a black male, I'm always so mad when that comes out. Anyway, a suspicious person, there's nothing really suspicious about hanging out in the neighborhood, right? So part of me is kind of like a little bit kind of pissed that we would get a call like that from somebody anyway, because they have just as much of a right to be out there as anyone else. But you know, and then, but the fact that they were black, I was part of, like, you know, you get caught in the middle, like, you know, I can understand the neighbor's point of view, but then I can understand once we get there, these kids are going to be like, hey, I didn't do anything. Why are you guys even here? Who called? You know, and then you can understand their side of the point too. So, you know, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh man, hopefully they'll be cool and they'll just kind of like head on off and then we can kind of move on about their day. But when they give the updated information about urinating outside in front of, you know, in the middle of the public, now I'm a little bit upset and irritated because I'm like, because now that's just not a good visual, you know? It just doesn't do anything for the black race. It just heightens the stereotype and everything. And I'm not too happy. So I'm saying to myself, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking to this little knucklehead kid for urinating in the middle of the freaking neighborhood in broad daylight. So, but still no big deal. I've had calls like that plenty of times, and, you know, more times than not, they'll honestly listen to you as long as you're talking to them with respect and all that stuff. And they, you know, you're kind of like their parent or guardian, I guess. So you're trying to teach them life lessons. So that's what I was going to be doing. I'm putting that on my list, okay? Drive by, you know, kind of give them the little, hey, the stern look, and like, you know, make it be known that, hey, look, man, you can't act like that. Just have a little bit more pride in yourself and everything. Carry yourself a lot better than that. And maybe even if they were like super, super young, I might even get the parents' phone number and call the parents and say, hey, look, man, you know your son's out here peeing all over some sidewalk. And then hopefully the parent comes, and then, you know, there's many different routes you can go. So I'm putting my cards together, how I'm going to play it, and it all kind of depends on how receptive they are, and then that's the route we're going to go. So, but anyway, now I'm getting a little bit closer to where they're at, and, you know, my cover unit is starting heading that way too, and I'm sure he's going down the same progression in his mind, how this whole call is going to play out. But it's early morning, we're thinking, all right, let's shoo him away and then move on. So as I get close to the street, I remember making my turn down the road. I let dispatch know this is 21, whatever my call sign was. I'm in the area. And so that was my updated traffic. And I remember heading down the road towards them. As I get a little bit closer, I kind of creep up a little bit from a distance. I'm able to see the license plate. And so I run the license plate with dispatch. I give them the plates and whatever it is, 6 Ida Union 64 whatever, and I just made that up. So, but I give dispatch the number, the license plate number, and then as I kind of creep up a little bit further. So as I'm doing that, now I see is there's a black female in the driver's seat, and then the black male is like kind of the doors open, and then he's kind of like hunched over and kind of talking to the female. And he keeps looking down at me, and then he'll turn back to her, then he'll say something. I couldn't hear him at that point, obviously, but I knew that he was talking to him. But he had that look like he was up to something. And I'm saying to myself, oh yeah, this is gonna be a little knucklehead. I can tell already. So as I'm getting closer, he's getting a little bit more animated. So I'm just like, okay, I already read the plate. I'm getting just a little bit closer, and then now all of a sudden he closes the door and he starts walking away. So I pull up and I'm like, hey, man, how are you doing? Let me talk to you. And he's like, what? I didn't do nothing. I'm so, okay, man, that's all right, but just let me talk to you for a minute. And then he ignores me and he tries to kind of walk off a little bit faster. So now I'm in, police mode and all that stuff, and I know other units are coming. So I feel all right. I got to stop this guy and everything because I really don't know anything about him, and I can't just let him walk away. Now he's the suspect of at least a city ordinance violation of urinating in public and all that stuff. So I can't just let him walk off and stuff. So as I parked the car, and now he's about 30 yards or so away from the car, which is parked facing me, as my car is facing it as I'm pulling into the road. But now I'm focused on this guy who's kind of trying to walk away from me. So that's kind of like I got to deal with him. So I get out, I try talking to him nice and cool, like, hey man, look, we were just called here just because you guys are unfamiliar with the area. Can you tell me what you're doing here? And then he kind of like started to blow me off, like, forget it, man, I'm going to go home. And I'm just like, okay, just hold on. And he would not stop. So now I'm just like, I see her still sitting in the car, and the car's not moving. He's walking away from the car, and now I had to kind of act. So I go up to him and I said, hey, look, just hold on 1 second for me. Let me know. Just hold tight for me. I can't just let you walk off right quick. And then he's like, I don't have to stay here. I'm like, well, yes, you do. And so then he tries to walk off, and then now I grab his hands. And now he's a young kid, kind of small and skinny. So I'm not necessarily worried about him, hurting me, because I have full control of his arms and everything. And I have a good grip on him, so I'm not quite worried about him. So if he starts to fight, all I know is I kind of, do what I have to do to get him on the ground. But my big concern was I didn't want to get into any type of fight, focus all my attention on him, knowing that she was still in the car down there. So it was a tough spot. I'm trying to hold him, keep him from walking away. He's definitely trying to distract me and get me away from the car, and either to protect her or whatever. So now I'm kind of in a tough spot. So I had to try to use my voice, and I didn't want to raise things up, but I could have easily picked him up and body slammed him if I needed to, got control over him. But like I said, he's a young kid anyway, so I wasn't trying to do all that stuff. I was trying to gain control over him and kind of talk the whole thing down to resolve the situation. De-escalation, I guess, is the word that they use nowadays. But this kid's getting a little bit more animated. So now he's turning and yelling at this girl in the car, whatever her name is. Go, drive off, go. She's yelling at him he's yelling at her to drive off. And I'm just like, no, stop yelling, focus on me. And she's like yelling at her. He's like, no, forget him, go. And he's yelling at this girl to drive off. I'm like, no, wait right down there. And she's like, I can see her like getting all animated herself, like what to do. Does she drive off? Does she, leave him, whatever? Does she jump out? And then now she tries to help him or whatever. And I can see, this is getting a little bit scary. But now I have my hands on both of his arms. So my hands are unable to kind of update everything. And so as I'm kind of struggling a little bit back and forth with the guy, then the traffic comes on the radio. Now, after running the plate, dispatch is letting me know that the vehicle is coming back stolen. So now you hear alert tone saying stolen vehicle, and everybody knows now it's a stolen vehicle that's associated to the call I'm on. So I just know people are coming. The only thing is that he's starting to get a little bit more aggressive, and he's trying to pull away. So then I had to really kind of wrap a hold of him, and the whole time we're not fist fighting, but we're just struggling. He's trying to get away, then I'm trying to, gain control over him and all that stuff. But I don't want to pounce him down on the ground, because then I'm going to lose sight of the girl in the car. So I'm like really doing everything I can to keep him upright as I'm waiting for my covers to come, because I know that he's going to be really ready to fight. And then we're going to have to deal with the car. The problem that I have with myself is that, and ever since then, I was training myself to try to figure out how to click the microphone that's attached to my shoulder, click the microphone key with my jaw or something like that. And then once I keyed the mic, then I can talk. Because if I was able to know how to do that, I should have done that, because to let people know that the threat was in the car, not necessarily me, but the girl in the car. Because if I was able to do that, my partner, when he first arrived, he might have been warned to know, hey, go to the car first, and then the third and fourth unit would come to me, and then the others could go to the car to back him up. But there was two threats going on, and the main threat was the vehicle that was still running with the girl still in the driver's seat. So that was the main threat at that moment. And I could not relay that information to anybody. I couldn't put it on the radio because I'm fighting with this dude. So all I remember is my partner, Mr. Tom Roseland. I'm gonna just leave it at there. But Tom comes down the road towards me, and he's hauling because he knows now that I'm not answering my radio. They're trying to raise me, but I'm fighting with this dude, so I can't respond. So they know I'm in trouble, and he's in full mock mode trying to get there to help me out. He gets down there and I can see him lock eyes with me. And so he gets out, he pulls his vehicle up as close as he could to me, and he runs towards me. And I was trying to tell him, no, look at the girl. And just as he ran up to me and he tried to grab the other arm of this guy, she puts the car in drive and she peels off straight at us at like an incredibly fast speed. And she was on us like that, guys. I'm a little bit closer to her than he was, and I knew where she was. Tom didn't. So once I saw the car coming towards us, I immediately flipped over towards the left to jump out of the way. Tom did not exactly know what was going on, and the car missed me, but it swerved and it hit him. Ran straight into him. Now, Tom Roseland is a tall guy. Anyway, he's like 6'3", 6'4", tall guy. And thankfully, because of his height, is what saved his life. And he was also able to jump up a little bit slightly so that the front of that car did not smash into his stomach and gut area. As it slammed into his legs. And that's what took most of the blunt of this impact. She just went smash right into him, and it was the worst everything I've ever heard from my partner screaming out in pain. We both fired our weapons at her, and it happened that fast. We tried to stop her. And then when we failed to stop her, we had to jump out of the way. He couldn't get out the way. And it was just like that. It's just like within seconds, all that happened. It just turned like that. And the next thing I know, as I'm on the ground trying to recover from jumping over, I'm out of the way. I look and I see in my eyes at that time, I literally thought he was dead. Just the way of how that car hit him, it was square on, and the sound of his voice when it hit him, and just the damage that it caused to his lower body was just something that to this day, I have a hard time seeing. By no means would I ever think that, the trauma of seeing my partner like that outweighs what he went through, and I can never take that back. It was just something that should never, ever, ever happen to anybody, especially a police officer out there trying to do their job. And just seeing him, I literally thought he was dead. And all I remember at that point was she stops because she ran into my partner and smashed him up into another car. And then she backs up, or however she did it, and then she takes off down the road. And all I can remember was just looking at this car as it drove off and just being completely helpless. I'm looking at my partner who's on the ground in just severe condition, severely injured, and the car and the suspect of the girl who just got done hitting him is getting away. At that point, I didn't know exactly what to do, There's so many things I wanted to do. Check on my partner, make sure he's okay, jump in my car, go after the suspect, get this girl, and just take her down. All that within seconds of each other. And then I also had the male suspect still on the ground. Luckily, I was able to still get a hold of him and handcuff him. Another partner came and arrived shortly after that. And then once everybody else started arriving, we were able to gain control over everything. He was able to help put male suspect in the car. I was able to help put updated information on the radio where this vehicle just got done turning to, which way it's going now. The other cover officers and other officers started arriving on scene. They were able to get to my partner and put tourniquets on him. And then we were able to, there's so many different things that we were able to do once other units got on scene. And then once things started calming down, they were able to start concentrating on me because I was a mess. And as all this was going on, one of the worst parts of that whole ordeal was this son of a bitch dude. If I saw him again, I'd be able to point him out. But there was this dude, long-haired punk sucker, who lived in this house like 5 houses down from where all this went down. This SOB had the gall to start yelling out at us as my partner's lying on the ground in severe conditioning, in immense pain, with his leg wrapped on the other side on a way that it wasn't supposed to be, and the other leg just in bad shape as well. And I'm getting raised up because I that's how emotional it was. And this punk had the nerve to start yelling out at my partner that he got what he deserved. And he's like, the cop should have, I hope he dies, and all these different things. Good for the person who ran him over. And, all cops should go out like that. Fuck the cops and all that stuff from the inside of his house. And I almost lost it. I had to get grabbed from behind because I was going after this dude, and I had to get pulled and restrained because I was if I got a hold of that dude, I can't even tell you what would have happened. I can't even tell you what would happen, guys. I'm not lying. It was something it was an unreal scene, and it just showed you the type of society that this place is turning into, where you got a 16-year-old juvenile running over a police officer trying to kill him, and then at the same time, people in the neighborhood are yelling out and cheering out the fact that that's what just happened, that they hope the cop dies. I've never, ever even come close to even imagining something like that ever happening, ever. I never even seen anything like that happen in a film. I don't even think directors of a film or writers of a film would ever put that type of material in their film, because it just doesn't seem right. The human brain just can't accept that being okay. And this dude was yelling out like that, like it was the most normal thing in the world. And he is lucky he stayed inside of his house, and those guys held a good grip on me because it was on. So what ended up happening was, I was a mess. I'm not gonna lie. I was a mess. One of the officers who came in, and anytime you fire your weapon anyway, as soon as the scene gets secured and calmed down and all that stuff, as soon as they can, they usually take that officer who was involved in the shooting off the streets, and they get them to the station, and then they put another officer with them to make sure that they're okay, because now it turns into a different thing. Now there's a investigation and all that stuff, and you got to go through that. So they remove you as soon as they can from the scene. And that's exactly what happened. So I went from seeing the demons of society and just the horribleness of some of the citizens out there to being proud of the way that my coworkers and my fellow San Leandro police officers responded to that scene, not only to help my partner and make sure that he was okay, and make sure to move the cars out of the way so that the ambulance could get in there to him and take care of him and rush him to the hospital. Not only did they have the awareness to clear that path, but they also had the awareness to lock down the scene and make sure all the evidence that might be needed, like security cameras and all that stuff. They had the wherewithal to make sure any evidence was reserved from, shell casings. They had the wherewithal to make sure that anybody else in the neighborhood wasn't injured from the rounds that were fired and all that stuff. And it was just like that, almost like they've trained for this on a daily basis for years. And it was amazing. Then when it was time and everything had kind of settled down a little bit, at the same time, you had detectives already trying to get as much information as they can. You could hear it on the radio. Then they were able to find out where this girl lived. So right away, they were out there trying to find a suspect. At the same time, I'm being driven to the station, with a partner who was assigned to watch over me and, get me to a safe place at the station. Just sit there, don't talk, don't nothing, just watch over him, make sure he's okay. And all that happened just like that. I've never been more proud of the San Leandro Police Department or being proud of being a police officer in general than that moment right there. Even though I knew that my partner was in horrible shape and I really didn't know if he was going to live or die due to his injuries and stuff. It was the worst moment of my, obviously me losing my academy mate who got shot to death. That night was as bad as it comes. This one was just as bad. It was a horrible, horrible experience. And, it was just one of those things where police officers' jobs are so dangerous and everything could change within a snap of a finger. In the end, my partner's legs actually were severely damaged. It would take years and years and years for him to recover, and I won't speak about it anymore other than that. My partner, Tommy Roseland, if he ever felt the desire to come on my podcast and tell his side of the story, that would be more than welcomed. But I'll just leave it at that. All I know is just I saw my partner almost get killed. He got ran over and almost died. And it was the worst sight I've ever seen in my life. But in the end, the suspect got arrested. She got convicted and she suffered a really, really good penalty for what she did. And something that she's going to have to live with for the rest of her life. And what she did was something that she felt she had to do because of her knuckleheaded boyfriend. Tommy has since moved on with his life, and I applaud him for that. And he went through a lot. So, everything that happened with me is beans compared to what that man had to go through in life. It was a completely life-altering situation. To this day, I always think to myself, like, what could have happened if I was able to get information out to him to let him know, don't worry about me right now, go to the car. We needed to get that girl out of that car ASAP by all means necessary, because what she ended up doing was something that I didn't think that she was capable of doing, but she did it in a heartbeat. And that just shows you how society has turned, especially with their ill feelings toward the police officers. And, it's unbelievable. So, man, it was just one of those things where it's a lesson that I feel like, the more I'm able to talk about it and then kind of, and others are able to listen to my podcast and stuff like that and learn from. I have all abilities now to sit and talk to anybody who would want to sit and listen and talk about it. I mean, I can't sugarcoat it. It happened. And but it's one of those things where hopefully her parents have learned, and us as parents in society in general have got to start understanding that we are fumbling the ball in terms of making sure our youth are held accountable for how they are growing up and the things that they're doing. I mean, it's not just a police thing. The things you hear on a daily basis of people getting injured, innocent citizens and stuff. You see videos all the time of like people going about their days, just trying to either go to work or whatever. They got their headphones on and they're just kind of like eating their food, trying to get a quick meal in before they gotta go and whatever. And they just get ambushed from behind and knocked silly and robbed. I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of hate going on out there. A lot of it honestly can be attributed to the courts and the leniency that they're giving to these freaking suspects who think that they can do anything they want to, and a lot of it is for good reason. They turn around, they can do the most heinous crime, and guess what? They're back out there on the streets just like that. Like this dude who killed this lady who's this entrepreneur lady, who all she did was she was going down to the lobby maybe to get her mail or whatever, and she saw this dude standing outside trying to get in, and it was obviously the worst mistake of her life because she ended up getting killed. This dude beat the crap out of her. I'm sure she was, sexually assaulted, and he left her dead body on the top floor or this apartment complex where she lived, and all she was doing was just trying to do something nice. Unacceptable for our society to turn like that. I would do everything I can to put it into that. Obviously, there's, I've got to turn into a judge or something. It might be too late for me to learn how to become a judge, but if I can send a message out to the judges out there or the lawmakers and all that stuff, we're failing We are failing society, everybody. The people who are out there doing everything they can to destroy civilization need to be held accountable, and we need more people who aren't just police officers, aren't just military people out there. We need more people to look themselves in the mirror and start saying, I'm gonna start doing what I need to do to make sure my kids and the friends around my kids are being held accountable, because that's the only way this world is gonna turn into a much better place. We need more Jerry Robinsons. Jerry Robinson is an awesome Raider ambassador, just does it all. He makes sure that his teammates have what they need. He was calling me prior to this trip where they flew me out for the game, checking on, making sure I was up to date on my NFLPA benefits and stuff like that, dental insurance, medical insurance, and all that stuff. A lot of things are being made better for former players and stuff like that. And he's always leaving texts and messages just to make sure, hey man, take advantage of this. Go out there, make sure you take care of your family. They have what you need, you have what you need. It's so important. And it was, even though I was reminded of horrible, horrible days I can remember as a human being, at the same time, I was reminded that there are also good people out there, and a lot of other people that I got a chance to see that weekend at the game, come back home, see my family. It means a lot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look myself in the mirror. All right, KShedd, what is it that you can do to make things better? And I've already figured out some things that I'm going to do. I'm going to call some people up and make some apologies. I'm going to say, hey, man, if you took this the wrong way, I'm sorry about that. With me and some of the things I might bring up, as far as like partnerships with the things I'd like to do in the film business and stuff like that. At this particular case, I wasn't listening. And for me, take a moment out there, guys, to stop all the talking. Start listening. The people around you have some stuff going on that we take a moment to kind of hear them out. We might be able to help each other out to live a better life. And I'm going to make that my goal. I hope the listeners do the same thing. For right now, KShedd out.